This Week in Radio Tech, episode 165, is brought to you by Axia Audio and the workhorse Axia Element Audio Console. Watch the Axia installation video and find out more at axiaaudio.com.
And now, our feature presentation.
TWiRT.
Radio stations do live remotes sometimes, and TWiRT is too. We're at Star 94 and 790 The Zone in Atlanta, talking about their new studios.
All right, calm down. He says that to everyone.
This calls for immediate discussion.
What's up, Dad?
All your days are belong to us.
From his palatial office of important business,
or in a choice hotel in a distant land.
This is Kirk Harnack.
Chief Engineer Scott Trask joins Chris Tarr, Tom Ray, Chris Tobin, and me for talking about new studios.
You're dialed in to This Week in Radio Tech.
Hey, it's Kirk Harnack and a whole cast of thousands in time for This Week in Radio Tech. This is the show where we talk about radio technology, RF, towers. We talk about audio, IP, computers, and we got a great show. I'm just so excited to bring you this show this week. First of all, you may notice that I'm sitting here with a guy, Scott Trask, of Lincoln Financial.
Correct.
And Lincoln Financial, you think, well, what
you
is
think
it?
Insurance, right?
Stocks and bonds?
No. We're a radio group.
Yeah, radio group. Okay. And so we're going to talk to Scott here for a good part of the show, maybe all of it if we can get him to stay long enough. And I've got our usual co-host with us. First of all, from Muckwonago, Wisconsin, the inimitable Geek Jedi. It's Chris.
Hello there. Thank you, Kirk. Glad to be here. I am the Director of Operations and Engineering for 88.9 Radio Milwaukee. I also am a contributing writer to Radio Guide magazine, co-founded the site, The Virtual Engineer, at broadcastengineering.info, and all around just fun person.
Well, I would agree with that. You drive a freaking Miata. You got to be fun.
You know, I've got this tan. True story. I bought this thing in February, figuring March the weather'd be nice. It wasn't. Finally, we have a few good days. This past week, so I tucked the top down. First day, I drive around all day with the top down. I come home and my face is sunburned, and it's for some reason you just never think the laws of physics apply when you're driving. I'm like, I suppose, I was in the sun all day. I should wear some sunscreen. So I've learned a lesson. But that's a fun little toy. My friend calls it the Mazda MLC, MLC being short for midlife crisis.
Funny. Well, that's a great car, and I understand that you have a new thermal mug to carry around with you.
I should have brought it with me. Kirk sent me a nice looking mug. It looks like a camera lens. In fact, I first opened it, I'm like, a camera lens? What would I do with this? And it's a mug. And it was even funnier was on Facebook when my wife had mentioned that she thought it was a real camera lens, and Kirk replies, "You didn't pour anything in it, did you?"
Yes, that's right. I did say that. There's a story behind this, and there's a story behind why Tom Ray and Chris Tobin, our other co-hosts, I'll introduce in just a minute, don't have them. I ordered 3 of them as gifts for you guys. One for Tom, one for Chris Tarr, one for Chris Tobin. They came to the house. I opened them up to look at them, see if they were what they're supposed to be. And who was right there but Laura and my daughter, Madeline. And they said, "Oh, cool mugs. Yeah. We each get one." I said, No. They're not for us. I bought them for my friends. And they, "What do you mean? These are cool. You can't give these away." And right away, Laura went and poured something in one, and Madeline went and poured something in hers. There was one more left over. Well, at that moment, I had already teased Chris that I was going to send him something. Chris Tarr. So Tom Ray and Chris Tobin, that's why you didn't get a mug, because my wife and daughter have them. And Chris Tarr has one because I already promised him one.
All right, your next visit to New York City, they stay home.
And on your next visit to the New York City area, you bring beer.
Yeah, actually, Tom and Chris Tobin, I'll be in the city next week and the next week.
Excellent.
So maybe we can get together.
It's a definite possibility.
I won't be there on Thursday night to do TWiRT from the city. But anyway, I'll be there Monday and Tuesday next 2 weeks. Hey, let's move along real quick with the introductions. Tom Ray from the Hudson Valley of New York. Hey, Tom, how you doing?
Good, Kirk. How about yourself?
Awesome.
I run Tom Ray Broadcast Consulting. I'm also the tech editor for Talkers.com and RadioInfo.com, and added something else to my repertoire, but I won't mention it till next week because while I'm online, I'm not officially online. So,
is it illegal? Does it involve all of your clothes?
Well, We won't discuss that
Never
right
mind.
now. It's a family show.
He's Fred Garvin, male prostitute.
He's Tom Ray,
Fuck naked.
male prostitute. Hey, I'm going to add a set of letters to the end of my name instead of CPBE, DRB, AMD. I'll also be adding MP.
Oh gosh.
And that doesn't mean military police.
Uh-huh.
Parliamentary
also
minister.
on our show, in studio, in Bayside, New York, from the GFQ studios, it's Chris Tobin.
Hello, everyone. Tom, Kirk, Chris. I'm with the folks at CCS Musicam, and we do IP codecs, both audio and video. And I don't have any crazy acronyms for you, but we do deal with a lot of agencies that do use acronyms.
And I'm sorry, Tom. I mean, Chris, I messed up your intro. The best dressed engineer in radio, Chris Tobin.
I try.
Yeah. Glad to have you along. And it's always great to go visit Andrew at the studios.
Oh, we have a great time here at the network. There's a lot of things that go on that, boy, if we could just put the camera on it. But you know what? It's that time of the evening, you just don't want to be doing that.
All right, so let me get around to introducing Scott Trask here. Scott, I met you maybe, 8, 9 years ago?
About 8, 9 years ago at Susquehanna.
Oh, that's right.
At that time. First time you demonstrated Axia for us.
Was it an Axia demo?
Yep, it was an Axia demo.
Okay, I'm gonna move the camera back a little bit and see if we can get us both in here better.
Okay,
there we go.
Okay, that's the first time I ever met you. That's the first time we ever saw Axia, and that's really when I fell in love with it.
Afterwards, we went out to eat and had some kind of awesome meal.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All right.
But you were with Jim, and you were up there at Susquehanna, and Marty was there, and we all had a good time. It was a great demonstration, and we haven't looked back since.
So, for some reason, I didn't realize that was Susquehanna. I guess so. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, it was.
Okay. So we're live, and I'm sorry about the quality. Things didn't work out, and most of it's my fault. We're in a building right now that is your radio station. So you engineer for these two stations for Lincoln Financial.
Correct.
But this facility was previously radio stations.
Correct. It used to be the old ABC studios of Kix and Y106, which were both country stations here in Atlanta.
Oh, okay. That's right. Yeah.
Which then they got bought by Citadel, which of course got bought by Cumulus.
Ah, yes. Okay. ABC, Citadel, Cumulus, and Cumulus just moved out of here.
And just moved out back in, they were out of here October 1st of last year.
Okay. So you've been in here
since that
remodeling, building. I wish we could give you a video tour of this place. It is absolutely gorgeous. The walls, the decorations, the studios.
Well, you got to understand, you've never been to the old studios. This is a real radio station where the other station looks more like a morgue.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
And the way this facility is laid out is much better for us, engineering-wise. In the old studios, the main studios were to the front of the building or the front of the floor. Production studios were in the middle, and the engineering room was basically a room that was kind of like, oh, we can put it there. Okay.
All right.
Only because the GM's wife was the designer, not need to be the designer. That's the problem.
So when I visited this place before, years ago, let's see, a guy named Russell
Smith.
Russell Smith was the engineer.
Correct.
And there was a guy with ABC who was down here helping Russell get a few things done. It was Kevin Plum.
Correct. I believe that's right.
And
that name sounds familiar.
And Kevin, I got to tell you, Kevin is an audio processing genius.
Mm-hmm.
He had taken a processor, it was an Omnia 6, and he had adjusted it in a way I'd never seen before. It just looked crazy to me. But on air, man, it was just punchy. It was different than all the other stations, and not in a bad way.
Yeah.
It was different and punchy and loud on a country format. You know what else I remember? This when I came and visited, what was WYAY? Was that one of the stations?
Yep.
And I remember that was right in the middle of that controversy with the Dixie Chicks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and how they were anti-American or something. Yeah. And
bad things about soldiers. Which is not good in front of me. So.
Yeah, that's right. You're a ex what?
Army.
Okay. Yep. All right. So during the show here, we're going to show you some photos from a few different stations around Atlanta. We visited a few stations today and got some interesting pictures of studios, technical centers, and just a few things going on. Again, I wish we could just walk you around here. We weren't set up to do that today, but Scott's going to walk you through some of the things that he's put together here, in terms of equipment and making the job easy and accurate for the operators.
Correct.
And maybe even tell us a little story about a challenge you've had over today in the last few days.
Oh, yeah. That's. I'm sure they've all gone through this one.
So our program is brought to you by the folks at, who happen to employ me, and I really appreciate it, the folks at Axia. They make the Element and the power station, which are the top of the line consoles in the Axia line. There's one of these sitting right behind me here, and we'll talk more about it when I do the commercial, but there's a quick look at the Element audio console. Very capable console. We'll get to that in just a few minutes. So let's see. I thought I had something else. Oh, yeah. Chris Tarr, I wanted to ask you real quick before we get on to in-depth with Scott Trask here. Chris, tell me about your week. You've been building some studios yourself. What's happened to you since the last time we talked?
Oh, it's been more than a week. I'm in the middle of a project for Intercom. I still work there. I was full-time there and left a while back to go to Radio Milwaukee, but I'm still employed part-time leading their project for their new studios, which involves, I believe it's 9 Axia consoles.
Wow.
So my week has been most of my evenings have been spent putting together studios and programming the consoles up and getting everything ready to go. And so that's taken up a big part of my life. But it's been great because I've been learning a whole lot about Axia and how the networks talk and the nodes talk, and this goes, I'm sure, for most digital consoles. So I don't want to sound like an Axia ad, but I'll tell you, it's amazing once you get your head around what these can do, the kinds of things that you can create, and the kinds of tricks and things that you can do and things you don't even think about. For example, last night I was working and I needed to. I actually made a change that required restarting the element. Well, that would be normally it's the analog equivalent of turning off your studio console, turning it back on. That's a major issue. What did I do? I just took the output channel of the playback system and routed it directly to the STL with a mouse click on the node.
With a mouse click?
With a mouse click. And my studio is bypassed, and I could restart the console, no problem. And listening on the air, you never would have known what happened. So, there are things like that, and it's funny because I tend to overthink things, and then you sit down and I use some software called iProbe, which is really great for configuring. And all of a sudden, I start looking like, oh, wait a second, that's really easy. I just go here, 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 and here, and I get that done. So that's been my big project. In the meantime, also launching the build project for Radio Milwaukee and their new facility, which also requires, planning for Axia gear because they currently have some. So yeah, I've been living and breathing Axia the past few weeks.
Well, and now with your other your full-time job, aren't you involved a lot with IT and making fundraising work for them?
Sure. Well, that's I as the director of operations, we have no vice president of engineering. It's me. I run the entire thing, so I do all the IT and the broadcast engineering. But part of what I'm having to do is we're moving into a new building. We had no infrastructure. Our infrastructure is provided by the public school district, who is the license holder of the station. We just have an operating agreement, like an LMA kind of thing. So as we move into this new building, I have to start from zero. We have, no phone systems, no internet infrastructure, nothing. We have broadcast equipment, and that's it. So, I've also been planning out the networking there. I was telling Chris earlier, and I won't get too deep into the geek side of this, but I'm going to be, because we do fundraising, we have the couple times a year, we have phone banks set up. So I decided, as we're getting ready to put in a phone system into this new facility, that we're just going to do voice over IP using SIP. It just makes a lot more sense. It's economical. We can scale it really easily, and just for our operation, it makes sense. Well, it turns out, as I'm doing my investigating, that a block down from our new facility is an internet provider that uses fiber, and they have their POP right there, their point of presence for the internet, a block away. So not only can I get fiber in from our facility to theirs, but they'll be able to do the QoS tagging for voice over IP, so that even if we saturate the link with other things, our phone system will work just fine. It will, that traffic will have all the priority. So there's a lot of fun in planning that, because we're doing that, and then also I was talking to Kirk earlier, talking to him about putting in a Zip 1 for an STL to get our audio back over to our transmitter site. So that's also in the works. So it's been a lot of fun. It's been challenging because typically when you build a facility, you're building something where you have some old infrastructure and you're just moving it, or you're improving the situation that you're in. In this situation, all I have is the studio equipment. We're not even bringing furniture, anything. So it'll be a project.
Well, if the weather gets good and warm, you need some help, you give me a call.
You're going to be the first person, probably.
Hey, Tom Ray, what's been on your mind this week? What kind of engineering things you've been up to?
Well, I've been straightening out some issues at an FM site I have I'm taking care of in Connecticut. We are going to be replacing the audio processing. We are going to also be, by the way, we're putting in an Omnia 11 for a religious station, so this ought to be good. And we are, what the heck? Oh, yes, we're going to replace the remote control system, and we are now looking at a new transmitter and going HD, because they'd like to, it's an FM station, they'd like to take it HD and add some other channels. So,
do they plan to put separate programming on an HD2 or HD3?
Both an HD2 and an HD3. And also it's a complete Axia facility. So and they have a television studio as part of this as part of their complex. They're also using Axia on the television side.
What? That's a little unusual.
Oh yeah. Yeah, well, they're using an Axia console for the television board, audio console, and it can also act as a backup if they lose the main studio. It's the same console that's in the main studio, so the guy can just move upstairs into the television control room and take it over.
Yeah. Wow.
So
interesting.
So, hey, Chris Tobin in studio at GFQ in Queens. What's been on your horizon this week?
This week, actually, I've been last 2 weeks. I've been visiting some schools, talking to them about IP and broadcasting and figuring out what's going on there, and answering questions as to how to do stuff with IP compared to what they're currently using at their radio stations, which is ISDN, T1s, and stuff. So it's been fun. I've been doing an educational tour. I think that's been sparked by the Verizon ISDN. We're not doing this anymore. Mac orders are gone, and the amount of confusion going on is just amazing. So it's creating havoc for everyone. I mean, it's good for all of us, but it's just been amazing. But no, the schools. I've been a couple of college radio stations called up and said, "Hey, we're curious." They watched our show, and they're like, "Hey, we're curious about this, curious about that." So I've been talking to them in layman's terms. Say, "Hey, here's how you got to look at it." As Chris found out with his Axia system, which I discovered years ago, you're limited by your imagination when it comes to manipulating IP systems and really making them work for you, or you're creating new ways to do something that you thought was impossible, or making it easier to do things you've done for years. So it's been fun. I've had a good time with it.
By the way, for our viewers who may be convinced that I've just put together an hour-long Axia commercial here, no, it's actually not. In fact, we're going to look at some pictures from other Atlanta radio stations during the course of the show that are definitely not Axia studios. We're going to look at some really old equipment and some competitive equipment and just how people are using it. But right now, I want to go ahead and get on to having a conversation with Scott here, Scott Trask of Lincoln Financial Broadcast
Media.
Media. All right. So these stations here, Star 94 and the
790 The Zone.
790 The Zone, which is a sports station.
Correct.
Star 94. What's that format?
Top 40, CHR.
Yeah.
Right around there.
Yeah. And we're actually in a production room that's
correct
over here on the side of
this is what we consider the traffic office in the morning. This is where they do the traffic reports from. Also, it's a production room during the day, but it's also our emergency backup studio. So at a flip of a switch, if we have a problem in the main studio, which is behind us, we can one flip of a switch, we put this station on the air.
Gotcha.
Or there's rooms on the air.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's see if we can just do a quick shot here. Tell us, we can start wherever you like. I want to show folks what's in the studio. What's right between us is an older phone system from Telos.
Yep, the 212.
It's a 2X12, yeah.
And then we got Denon CD player.
Yeah.
And you can see, of course, a bunch of blank panels because we, no more cassette players or DAT players. I mean, everything's done off the PCs. So it's just simply the element and the feeds coming in from the rack room, satellite feeds, the TV feed. All the PCs are connected with the IP audio drivers, of course.
Yep.
And this was the original furniture was still in here. This furniture been in here since 1989.
So you're saying that there's a lot less gear nowadays than there used to be?
Oh, a whole lot less now.
I notice your rack room here is actually not that big.
No.
And there's a lot of blank space in it.
Still a lot of blank. I mean, we need to pull down some miscellaneous equipment that's non-critical right now. And we'll do that over the next couple of weeks as we take our time. But we're mainly getting this stuff lined up. And we'll be done here in about another month or so.
Some episodes ago, we did a lot of talk about microphones. In fact, a guy named Mike Phillips was our guest on that show, and he had some great ideas on mics. But I want to show folks this mic. It's a really popular mic in broadcast facilities. I'll show you this. Now, most of them don't have a green back end on them.
Actually, the people who did this were the same people who did the wraps for all our vehicles.
Aha.
And so they came in and took the measurements, and this is actually a wrap that goes around the SM7.
Okay.
And we're also getting ones that will be identical, different colors, of course, but for 790 the Zone also.
So this is an SM7 made by Shure.
Sure. Yeah.
And here? Would you pull the screen off the front?
Sure.
This is a lot of folks who watch this show are broadcast engineers. They know what this looks like, but plenty of them aren't. Okay, so what are we looking at up inside?
We
here?
have the cone here, and then you have the diaphragm inside this metallic cone to protect it.
Now that's not a condenser mic.
No,
it's a dynamic mic.
Correct.
Which means that it's not powered. It makes its own electricity, right?
It makes its own electricity.
All right. Cool. And then this is a thing that holds bacteria.
Holds bacteria. And believe it or not, I got this idea from my wife. She runs a daycare.
Yeah.
She actually has a bag that's like perforated.
Huh.
And we actually have extra ones of these, and once a month we'll go collect them all up. We throw them in the bag. We throw them in the dishwasher. And then we put all new ones on here for a month.
Yeah.
And then we'll put these on the rack, let them dry out.
Yeah.
And then we'll change about a month later.
Oh, so you keep them disease-free.
We tried to anyways.
Yeah.
Because we got a lot of spitters in these rooms.
Well, at stations I worked at, and we had one of these at the first AM station I worked at, WEKY, and I swear it never got changed. Of course, we didn't have a spare pop filter, but we just sprayed Lysol on it. But after about 200 sprays of Lysol,
that starts caking up, makes it even look worse.
Terrible.
So that's why we wash them.
All right. Well, good deal. Well, now behind us is the audio console, and I'm sorry I can't get out of the way much more than I am. But this is an Axia audio console.
Axia audio console, and as you can see here, this is a furniture modification that we had to make to the board
because the
hole is twice as big as the element.
So this furniture was already here.
This furniture was already here
with bigger audio consoles.
Correct. They had the old PRE, ABX, BMX type consoles. So of course, if we tried to put in the element, it would have fell right through the through the furniture. So we have a local company that came in and we did all the studios.
Yeah. And
they built all new modifications so we could just drop the element right in place.
Now, I've noticed in touring studios here, and I know you've gotten compliments, and everybody in your staff has, about how beautiful the studios look, because they absolutely are gorgeous. It helps that they're new. I mean, there's new carpet in here.
It's all new carpet, all new ceiling tiles, all new fabric and soundproofing.
Yeah.
We replaced all of it. And the reason why was a lot of TVs would have been put up. And the problem is the weight of the TV started ripping through the soundproofing. So we went ahead and replaced all of that.
Yeah.
So basically the whole thing, except for the furniture, was refurbished to get it better.
Okay.
Like the wood part here, stained. Yeah. We brought them in. But this furniture hasn't moved at all.
Now, what company made this furniture? Was this?
This was PRE furniture.
Oh, it was. Okay.
It went with the PRE consoles.
Gotcha.
Now, they're twice the size.
They're huge. Yeah,
they're huge. Yeah. And there's a lot more blank space in there than there is anyplace else.
Now, one of the interesting studios was the talk studio for the sports station.
Right, which used to be the old YAY main control room, which was identical to the Star 94 furniture that's behind you.
Yeah.
In the other room. Well, we ripped all that furniture out. That talk studio furniture was actually brought back up from the Buckhead, where the Buckhead studios were.
I know we're talking about it now, but when we go look at the pictures that I took today, I think I took a couple of pictures in there, and so we'll see a couple things there. But I know you've got HD video cameras.
Yes,
in that studio.
The sports station also broadcasts every morning for 3 hours on a local station here called CSS.
Okay.
And they're kind of a broadcast partner. They come in Monday through Friday. They broadcast from 7 to 10. Which is kind of an advantage for us because, as everybody knows, with AM radio, you have a little bit disadvantage during certain times of the year with main power.
Sure.
And so this helps get the audio into homes or even office buildings that can't pick up the radio station.
Right.
So it's a little bit of an advantage for us.
So it's on CSS now. That is that?
It's a local cable channel.
Okay. Now, where I live in Nashville, I'm on Comcast. We have CSS too. Different thing.
Different thing.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of the same thing, but a little bit different. They're going to be concentrating locally in your area. This one concentrates in the Atlanta area.
Gotcha. So Chris Tobin has told us many times about when he was working at CBS Radio, that the CBS radio stations in New York produce more video every day than the CBS television station in New York.
Well, they do a little bit here too, because we're out when they're out on doing remote, or we're at Falcons games, because we also do the Falcons games every year, or they're out and about. The promotions teams here, they're doing a lot of videoing. It's you think we're a radio station, but a lot of times they cut more tape than regular TV stations.
Wow. So you've been when. Let me ask this way: how many weeks or months have you actually been moving equipment in and hooking it up? When did that start?
The actual move-in started about the last week of February, when construction stopped. Where construction, they did lift up this furniture so they could get the rug down properly.
Sure.
Make sure, because this is a raised floor.
Yeah.
And so some of the tiles, of course, have holes cut in them so we can run the wiring underneath and all that stuff. Once they got done, we followed suit right afterwards. All the Axia stuff was ordered before the new year, so that way we'd have it right after the first of the year.
Yeah.
We got it in. We got, lack of a better term, I'm just going to say it, we burned all the stuff in our old studio to make sure everything was running right. All the power stations were. We actually started programming up here, so by the time we dropped them in here, we were ready to go.
So you started wiring at the end of March. I mean, the end of February.
No, the wiring. Oh, we actually did a lot of pulling of wiring back in November and December to clean out the old Cat 5.
Oh, yeah.
All the old big bundles of cables.
Yeah.
And what we did was we ran 4 Cat 6 to every studio.
I saw the back wall of your rack room.
Mm-hmm.
I gave myself a tour before you got back over here, and there's a big wall where a lot of stuff used to be.
That was all taken down. We didn't need it anymore.
So what used to be on that wall?
There were control cables, big bundles of 25 pair of cables that really weren't needed anymore, because with Axia, we already knew the plan going in that we were going to run 4 Cat 6 cables to every studio. 1 for our network, 1 for our automation system, 1 for Axia, and then we'd have 1 for a spare.
Wow.
And that's all we needed. Now, their old PRE cables are still here.
Yeah.
That we can use for controlling stuff.
Yeah.
We left that in place because it's still very good and viable.
Yeah.
But the big bundle stuff, all that stuff got ripped out. And all the old Cat 5 phone, all the old phone, everything was all ripped out before we put in new stuff.
So I tell you, if Andrew Zarian is ready with some photographs, I took some photographs today at a few radio stations, and I thought we just look through them. A couple of them are from here, I think, and some are from some other stations in town. So Andrew, if you're ready, why don't you just pop the first picture up? I'll tell you about this. This is a PR&E console. Now, who knows exactly what model this one is?
Is that an AMX?
I think it is.
That looks like an AMX, the early version.
Okay, and this is sitting in the engineering shop at the Cox radio stations.
That's a classic.
And they are actually refurbishing this.
Oh, yes. Yep. I know
it's
people.
It's a big, heavy analog console. Charles Kinney, who is the director of engineering here in he's overseeing the rebuilding of this console, and they're actually able to get a lot of replacement parts for this because Harris bought PR&E, the company that made this console. PR&E, Harris bought them, and as far as I know, Harris has not really been supporting this console line. It's pretty old. So I understand that Bob Moore of Mooretronics is able is making some of the parts and having some of them made, some of the Lexan covers.
Yeah, Bob Moore actually has some new switches that actually work better than the ones that originally came with the AMX.
Yeah, you see those columns of switches over near the right-hand side.
Yeah.
The original switches had, were they called shadow switches?
The shadow switches, the Shalcos, the Shalco switch.
Okay, well, they have a little, like an eye that winks open to reveal a bright orange thing underneath, just to let you know that's on. And the mechanical movement of that piece is really slick. You push it, and this little the little shutters open just real fast. Very popular switch in a lot of broadcast equipment, but yeah, I guess not made anymore. So yeah, we saw a demonstration of this today where they've been replaced with buttons that have an LED in them, and they've got a like a dark cover on them, so you can't even tell there's a light under there until the light comes on. It looks really good. So yeah, I want to hats off to Charles Kinney and staff they're doing this.
David Jones.
Oh, David Jones. Okay. Doing nice work here. All right, let's take a look at the next picture. This was over at the Cumulus station.
Cumulus.
Yeah, this is an all-new station, 106.7, and they have a newsroom there where all the reporters are gathered. And I got to tell you, just prior to being at this station, I was at WSB, the Cox station, which has an enormous newsroom. I mean, every reporter's got their own big desk and plenty of room to roll their chair around.
Yep.
This place here, this is tight.
Well, I tell you what, they used to be up here.
Oh.
When they first flipped this to all news. And the conference room that you see here now is only the third of the size it was originally when we first got ready to demo this place.
Okay.
Okay. It actually almost went to the very front of this building. And that's where they had all their news people at when we first started getting ready to take over this building.
Okay.
Because we would be coming up here a couple months ahead of time looking it over, seeing what plans we were going to come up with. What did we want to do here? What did we want to do there? And they're all, of course, looking at us like, what the heck's going on out there? Have no clue. But they were actually a lot bigger.
So Cumulus has a bunch of radio stations in their cluster, a whole bunch of studios in there.
Well, talking with their chief engineer, the story I got told is they went from 5 studios to 18 studios.
18, that's the number I heard. 18 studios where 5 used to be.
Yes.
It's just an amazing place. And was it
Mark Lamuth?
Mark Lamuth is who we met with today. Also met with Dick Bird.
Dick Bird.
Yeah, Dick Bird was there, and the IT guy, Tim Stevens.
I think yes, Tim Stevens. Yes.
Yeah. So if you want to bump back to that picture, I'll talk a bit more about it. So in this newsroom, this is a tight working environment. I'm not saying that's good or bad, but I'll tell you what, these reporters, they are all there doing yeoman's work. They were all interviewing people, getting facts, calling people for confirmation on various breaking news stories.
Well, I'll tell you, this is a funny story about this part, though, is we were coming up here, we were looking things over. They left before October 1st. We came up here, myself, my general manager, and a couple other people to take a look at who was going to design the floor.
Okay.
In the conference room, they had a big old whiteboard.
Yeah.
And you name it, they left everything in place. FTP site password information, their Yahoo password information, their title line information, their ISDN information. If we really wanted to be bad people, we really could have screwed them.
Now, this is the good thing about broadcast engineers. They tend to not be bad people.
No.
We tend to help each other.
Professional courtesy.
No.
Yeah, professional courtesy.
Well, if you want to talk about helping out, I could tell you this. I'm Charles Kinney from Cox.
Yeah.
He's helped me out, and also Vic Jester from Radio 1.
Yeah.
Had a couple situations here where I needed some help, and just to pick up a phone call. It's a very good feeling knowing that someone's going to help you out.
I think in most markets, that's about the way it is.
Yeah, we all try to keep an eye on each other. We'll all help one another out. I mean, I even went on vacation one time, and Charles took care of my transmitter site for me.
Yeah.
He just kept an eye on it. If something came up, he would have called me. But we had an issue with a CD link. I had one go bad on me. I needed one pretty much overnight. Gave him a call. I had it that afternoon, ready to go. So, yeah.
Hey, let's look at the next picture that we have there. Okay, in that, there we go. This is at your station here.
This is the new FM studio right here.
I took this picture this afternoon. Obviously, I walked in. There's logos everywhere, and so what's the first thing I said? Hey, is this the Star 94 studio?
And of course, you had to meet Chase Daniels here. He's our afternoon guy.
This guy he's a pleasure to talk to.
Yeah, he's a good guy. And actually, we call him Junior Engineer.
Really? Why is that?
Because he's actually kind of helped us out a little bit.
Oh,
okay. Now granted, it was, hey, go to the other side. I'm going to pass you a cable. You hold on to the cable, and I'll get to the other side. That type of stuff. But he did help us out.
So this that's another Shure SM7 mic.
Correct.
With that wrap on the back.
With the wrap.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now the console obviously is
Element.
Okay.
Yep. With the power station, we run Next Gen as our automation system.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see the screen that you kind of see to the right here. That's the touch screen for the button bar where they can play stuff instantly.
Yeah.
And the main 3 screens going across are you have your Axia, Next Gen, and of course to the left is their Internet, or what we like to call the Wave machine.
Yep. And then the next screen to the left, the one that's right in front of Chase's face, is Vox Pro.
It's Vox Pro.
So I go to different stations and use this Vox Pro. What do people like about it?
They like it for the editing purposes. If you watch Chase is probably one of the better ones in this station. When he gets on a Vox Pro, he can edit any call that quickly and get it on the air that quickly.
Okay.
He knows that program inside and out and gets it done real quick.
Now, Vox Pro, does this run in a PC environment here?
It runs in a PC environment, and we're running an IP audio driver off of it.
Oh, so it doesn't have a sound card in the PC?
No, it does not.
Gotcha.
Every PC in every studio has an IP audio driver.
Okay.
The only one that does not, of course, is the Mac with the Pro Tools.
Yeah.
Because you have to have the Digital Design 2 for it.
That's right. Okay.
But that's another advantage with us. Every PC here now is all IP audio drivers.
Now, look at the picture of the windows right there. It looked to me like this studio is a box sitting on a bare floor.
You are exactly right.
Tell us about that.
And if I was skinny enough, I'd like to try to get behind the window once in a while and fall through. And make somebody like fell off the building or something. But from what I understand, back when ABC built these studios were built inside the building, not built as part of the building in a sense.
Right. So they took a bare floor, a bare space, just a big open space, and you build a standalone room.
It's a floating studio.
A floating studio. There you go.
That was our policy when I was at ABC when we did the studios.
Yep.
This
is the first time I've usually used a floating studio where you have the floor raised, where you can run all your wires underneath it, and sometimes it's fun, but then sometimes it can be a bear.
So, Chris Tobin, you got some experience with this. When they say floating studio, what is the room that's built on the slab? What's the room actually sitting upon? Some rubber isolators?
Well, it depends. There are several ways to do it. The rubber isolators, the floor itself has got a sheeting. Years and years ago, I believe it was isolators. They actually had it sitting, if you will, think of springs, that kind of thing. And you could feel, depending on how much isolation you required. Now, studios I worked in, we actually recorded network shows with boom mics and people reading scripts and doing stuff, so it had to be really quiet from vibration. And you walk into the room, close the doors, there's the sound lock doors, so 2 sets of doors, and all of a sudden your body, your ears, you feel like something's amiss. You're like, what? I kid you not. And then there were other studios that did not have as much isolation. You felt something, but it wasn't as disturbing. But we had 2 studios that were designed to be they literally tested by dropping 50-pound bags of sand outside the door and see if they could hear it inside and watch on a scope.
Wow.
Nothing. You watch the guy drop the bag, the oscilloscope with a microphone plugged into it, and just straight line.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
But your inner ear, your body balance, you definitely felt something.
Now, I got a feeling that, Chris Tarr, I'll bet you that you're like me. You've never worked at a station that spent the money for isolated rooms.
No, and we actually talked about that with the new facility here and decided against it. There's, as Chris Tobin was saying, there's certainly a need for it when you're doing things like those network recordings and when you're doing very quiet spoken word kind of things. But for a normal broadcast studio, typically you wouldn't do that. It's nice to have, but as I like to call it when we had the acoustical consultants in, it's going down the rabbit hole. You can really. There's some basic good engineering things. For example, make sure all of your HVAC returns are separated. The amount of sheetrock that you're putting putting on the walls, and sound treatments on the walls and ceilings. We look at we're not mastering anything. We're radio station. Mics are going to be open for short periods of time. We really don't need that kind of isolation. But we did discuss possibly a box within a box on pucks and that sort of thing, and just realized that it really, for what we were doing, it wasn't. It got to be the point where it wasn't cost effective anymore.
Now, Tom Ray, I understand that his engineering office was actually an isolation booth because nobody wanted to hear him scream.
That's right. But no, the old WR studios at 1440 Broadway were built as isolation rooms. They were rooms within rooms and sat on springs and the whole bit. And it was. And Chris is right. You walk into the room and the door closes and it's like, ooh. but the weirdest one I've ever been in. I went to college at the University of Hartford, and over at the, I think it was the Hart College. Yeah, no, it wasn't the engineering school. It was the Hart College of Music. They had a soundproof room, and you literally, if you went in that room, it was so isolated, you heard nothing but your heartbeat. Wow! And boy, you want to talk about weird? That door would close, and you'd sit there and go, really?
And those are the rooms where they add reverb to wet the sound because it's too quiet.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
To liven up your sound. How crazy is that?
If a room is too much like that with too much deadening, have any of you ever had the bad dream where like you're scared to death and you scream and nothing comes out of your mouth during the dream? I mean, you're trying to scream and you can't.
Oh yeah.
I feel like a room that was so absorptive that if you would scream but nobody can hear you, not even yourself, that'd be I think we're getting far afield. I'm sorry, that's my fault. Hey, how about another picture there, Andrew? You got another picture for us to look at? Oh, yeah, this was back over at Cox Radio. There's Charles Kinney and another console. Is that one a BMX?
No.
Oh, one's a BMX2, one's a BMX3. Okay. All right. So that one's under rehab, getting rebuilt. That's that requires a lot of engineering skill to rebuild a console. You got to put the right capacitors in it.
Right capacitors, resistors, everything.
Yeah.
Take out the transformers on the output modules.
Yeah.
That was one of the modifications. That's a classic.
So what's by the way, the guy on the left part of the picture there, that looks like that's Marty Sachs. He is the vice president of the Axia division of Telos. And as we mentioned, Charles Kinney is there, the director of engineering for Cox Radio here in Atlanta. Let's move on. What's the next picture there, Andrew? Oh, that's here at Star 94.
Yep.
Yeah. Took that. I guess that's right there at the control room. We talked about that. Let's look at the next one, Andrew. Oh, I was waiting in the lobby at Cox Radio, and there is Miss Georgia Princess.
Wow.
And I thought, hey, not every day you get your picture taken with a. There you go. All right, Andrew, is there another picture? Okay, another picture of the news operation at All News 106.7. Now, in this picture, I want to point out a few things. There's the big telephone there. That is a Telos VSET 12 phone. So that connects to a large VX phone system that they have there at Cumulus for their news operation. And it, lets in this case a reporter record conversations with newsmakers. Of course, there's the keyboard there in front of them, and on the right, this is a small console that's made by Wheatstone. I believe it's called the sideboard.
I've never seen it. To be honest with you,
I think it's called the sideboard. So
it's a new product. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a that one's a little 4-fader console. But it connects back to a small node that has some mixing capabilities, or I'm sorry, a blade. That's what Wheatstone calls them. So it gives a news reporter a small mixing place there. Of course, there's the monitor speaker. Why is that monitor speaker so popular? Is that a Fostex?
Yeah, that's a Fostex.
You've got one right here behind us.
You can't beat it. It's a great speaker.
Yeah, it's a very good speaker.
It does everything. It's got most sensitivity. You can kick it around. You can drop it. It still works. I kid you not. It's great.
In the rack, in the back of the picture on the left side, there's a whole lot of IP audio going on there. There's an Axia Livewire network in there, and there's a WheatNet network in there, and I believe their business network and their VoIP phones are also in that rack. So there's a whole bunch of IP there.
Please tell me they're not all on the same subnet.
No, they're actually physically separate with physically different switches.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I just noticed there is an intercom. It's just above the telephone up there. It's got a gooseneck mic. That is a IP audio intercom. It's made by Axia, and it lets the news people all have instant communications with other people in the news department. What's next, Andrew? Did I take any more? No, we're back in the Star Studio. Okay, goofy Chase. Okay, back in that newsroom. There's a better picture of the intercom. I suspect that most radio engineers don't have an intercom to work with. That most broadcast facilities, except really big stations, especially news stations. Like I went through my whole engineering career, never an intercom system anywhere.
Well, originally at the Peachtree location, there was an intercom system, but we kept finding out more and more every day nobody was using them.
Oh.
They'd rather open the door, walk down the hallway than to buzz somebody or anything like that. And the technology just got so old, it was better just to take them out.
Ah, okay.
And at this point right now, do we really need one? I don't think so right yet. But if it comes to it, we will take a look at it.
Yeah. Well, I guess an all-new situation where you actually do need to have convenient touch
quick
and
quick communication. Yes, I could see where the convenience would come in, but here, you're on air studios in one room, you talk studios in another.
Yeah,
you're waving at one another. You're IMing through assistant producer or anything like that.
If your microphones that like you're on the console mixing, you got microphones, and everybody in the other room is on headphones too, right?
Correct, and we all with the preview bus that takes care of your intercom.
A console talking to microphones and headphone outlets, at least a sophisticated console, has the ability to talk back and forth.
Correct.
Even like you could the operator of this console could push a button and say, "Hey Bob, we need a break in 2 minutes," and Bob is on the air talking, but you can whisper into his headphone.
And the good thing here is we could either mix it so one preview bus goes to say the 3 hosts, or we could break it down to where each individual has their own preview.
Yeah.
That way you could go to say, hey, Chris, your cut's ready to go. Or, hey, guys, let's go. We got to go to break.
There you go.
One of the two.
Now, one of the things that I've noticed that, and again, I'm not real into the world of intercom myself. I've seen them at TV stations. When I do the weather on TV, of course, I'm wearing an IFB, and the director, will count me down 1 minute, 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have to look away at a clock. I can keep my eyes either on the green board or on the camera. So he's talking to me. Well, I've noticed that the folks at Axia have added some interesting capabilities to the intercom. Now it's possible, and this is really thanks to the whole world of IP audio and doing this over Ethernet, you can use an intercom and talk back to anything that's coming in, as long as there's a path back. So you've got a Marty coming in, if anybody's used Marty still, and you've got maybe a cell phone IFB. You can talk back to that.
Right, and what we're setting up here now is in the control room where they could actually talk back into one of the production rooms and say, hey, do you have those cuts ready to go?
Yeah.
Are we ready yet? And they can it's almost like using the preview bus as an intercom system.
So here's the other interesting thing is that it used to be that intercom audio quality was just awful. It just sucked.
It was terrible.
I got started in television at a university, and we had carbon mics in our earpiece, in our headsets, and they sounded as bad as any telephone sounded, right? Well, now the quality of the intercom, it's over the same IP audio network as the other audio. So actually, it's a mono source, but it's 20 kilohertz of linear audio.
And those guys in the other studio can hear you like if we were sitting just like right now talking to one another.
Yeah.
And the thing is you can keep it quiet. You can actually whisper in his ear without bothering him, like you said, as he's talking.
Yeah.
So
here's something else I thought of. The folks at Fraunhofer in Germany, they are the ones who developed MP3, AAC, and they developed this thing called acoustic echo cancellation, where you can have an open mic and an open speaker, and basically they're tied together in a loop, and normally they would feed back. They would just sit there and whistle feedback. But they invented this acoustic echo cancellation, which it's in our intercoms, and maybe in other products too, I don't know, but it's in the Axia intercoms. And so you can actually open an intercom channel to another place, and your mic is active, your speaker is active, and at the other end, their mic and their speaker are active. In other words, it's no more push to talk.
Okay.
So what you can do is end up having a natural conversation like you and I are having right next to each other. I don't have to push to talk to you, but we can be, a building apart.
Yep.
And have that same comfort of not having to. Scott, I'll be right over there shortly, and don't have to push a button. Just
talk back and forth.
Just talk,
which would be perfect.
Yeah,
especially for production rooms.
I'd forgotten about it. I wish I'd been able to. I wish I'd worked at a station that had intercom. Have more examples of that. Andrew, do we have anything else, or is that all the pictures I sent you? What do we got? No, let's see. This was at the Cumulus facility. Now, they had a lot of Wheatstone consoles there, some of which were left over or were brought in from stations that they had bought. And this picture, in the center of the picture, is an old, really old Telos switch console. Now, Telos still makes those, but I think that particular one right there is probably at least 10 years old.
And I have 2 of those sitting on a shelf.
Ah, okay.
Old reliables.
Yeah. All right, good. What's next? Any other pictures? Back to Star 94. Yeah. Okay. I took too many pictures of Chase there, didn't I? What's next?
Yeah, you're gonna bruise up his ego.
Oh, this was also at Cumulus, yeah? Yeah, because there's a Wheatstone console. That particular console was not one of the IP consoles. That was one of the TDM consoles. I remember them saying about that. And now the talent there, that's Johnny O.
Okay.
Do you know Johnny O?
No,
okay.
Not at all.
Okay. Turns out he knows the same people. He used to work in Jackson, Mississippi at some station there.
Okay.
And so we ended up knowing some of the same people. I need to clean my camera. Flare going there. All right. What's next, if anything? Did I run out? Oh, I ran out.
You're all out.
Okay. Well, good. Well, we haven't done a commercial yet. We've probably got another 10 minutes left in the show. So I guess I'll take this opportunity to thank our sponsor for this episode, the folks at the Telos Alliance, and specifically the folks at Axia Audio. I got to spend a day today with the vice president of Axia Audio, a guy named Marty Sachs. Now, Marty is a former broadcast engineer from the Northeast, from the Washington, D.C. area. And, Marty's been there. Marty's done that. And it's great to work with people like Marty, with Jim Armstrong. Are you behind me, Jim? No, he's walked out of the room.
No, he's...
with Jim Armstrong, who came to us from another console manufacturer and has been working with Axia for about 6 or 7 years now, helping us to spread the word about Axia consoles everywhere and the benefits of IP audio. I guess I should point out that, I guess Axia didn't invent IP audio. There was CobraNet and Ether Sound.
But I think they took and ran with it, though.
Well, we had to figure out a way to do low latency.
Yeah.
Because 10 years ago, the folks at Axia were actually trying to use CobraNet, but it had way too much delay. And that delay is fine if you're doing, if you're bringing audio from several hotel rooms back to a, central area. But it just wasn't appropriate for broadcast. Broadcast, you've got people who are listening carefully to their own audio. You've got to talk in a mic, have that audio go through whatever system it's going through, mix that audio, and bring it back to somebody's monitoring headphones in about under 3 milliseconds.
It does, but to me, it's how good and crisp it sounds, how quickly it transfers, but how the ease of operation. The ease of learning how to set it up, the ease of setting it up, how to program it simply, how to teach other people to simply program this. For instance, our news director, who is very hyper about his microphone and the way it sounds, we showed him for 5 minutes. You push this button, this is how you change your settings.
Yeah.
He changed his settings until he got the microphone where he wanted it.
And then you save the settings.
And then we saved the settings and put him into the system. Now he has his profile all built. He's now happy.
He could probably, I don't know if you've done it or not, but he could bring up basically his microphone settings at any mic he wanted to sit at.
Exactly. Yeah. But here's the thing. Here's a guy that was bribing me while building this. Please let me bring my Air Core processor with me. And I went, no, not happening. And once we showed him how to do it, he was able to show other people how to do it. And now we have the production director. Well, hey, I need to change my voice. How do I do it? He can go in and tweak it.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily have to save it, but he's able to tweak what he wants to do.
Gotcha.
So those are the things we're looking at. The ease of operation, the ease of being able to program it, and the ease of training people on how to use it is the big thing.
Now, I wish that the mic processing had a setting to make me sound like, I don't know, James Earl Jones or Raymond Burr, or not going to happen.
But no, it's not. But the thing is we selected this because of those characteristics, how well and durable it is. And if you think about the picture of Chase is also the same guy who spilled a cup of coffee in one of the modules.
I heard a little bit about this. What happened?
It was a Saturday. Knucklehead came in with a cup of coffee and spilled it into the first set of modules. Now, because it's off the board, it's not that connection at the bottom anymore.
Right.
That coffee went to the bottom, yes. And yes, it got into the other hardware of that first module and burned it out.
Yeah.
But here's my guy. My engineer shows up, goes and grabs a spare one, comes in, hot on the air, flips it out, chases back on the air. He's able to talk.
Yeah.
So I mean those were other factors that we looked at also.
That is amazing. In fact, I've demonstrated this to folks about if you have they come in banks of four
faders.
So you spill water, coffee, Coke, something down in there. We don't do it, but if you do, there's 2 hex screws at the top.
2 hex screws, and then you take out your Cat 6 or your network connection.
That's right, the network connection.
Take out your ribbon cable.
1 ribbon cable.
Take it out.
The whole thing. And then you can put a new one in. You don't have to program it.
You don't have to program it.
It receives its programming the instant that it's
and you reset your profile, and it will see it's there, and you'll reset the entire board for you. So, so Chase is not, you got to be careful with Chase. We call him a junior engineer, yes, but he's also the one that ruined some of the equipment.
I didn't plan it this way, but you know what? We've got 3 other engineers on the show here, Chris Tarr, Tom Ray, and Chris Tobin, and each of them have experience with this console. Guys, do you have any coffee spillage stories for us?
I got a hot chocolate story.
Not an accident.
No Axia, no coffee with my facility at the time. No.
What wasn't an Axia, but it was a PR&E console.
Well, I had a Ward Beck.
Yeah. Well, the midday woman on the air was 9 months pregnant at the time, and she was obviously very front heavy. And she had walked into the studio with a cup of hot chocolate. Now she was nowhere near the board, and she tripped. And you're 9 months pregnant. What are you going to do? She let go of the cup and reached out and grabbed the countertop. And she was at the other side of the room walking around. It was an L shape. She was walking around. The cup went up in the air and came down, upside down, dead center on the console.
Oh!
She came running into my office. Whoa! I grabbed my assistant. We ran in with tools, and we actually kept the board on the air. We pulled half the modules out. Said, "You're on these cart machines on this side." That's how long ago this was. Cart machines. Yeah. You're on these cart machines. We flooded it with contact cleaner. Popped all the modules back in. Popped the other side out. You're on those cart machines now. Flooded that side. We kept it on the air and saved the console, but.
That's amazing because usually, a console with edge connectors at the bottom, it's amazing something didn't short out and just burn something up.
Oh well, it's funny. It missed all the edge for whatever reason. It missed all the edge connectors, but it was all around them, and it was like threatening to fall in. And we just flooded this thing with contact cleaner.
Wow!
If we had a 55-gallon drum, it wouldn't have been enough. I mean, the thing was dripping for an hour afterwards.
So wow! So Chris Tobin, did you have if not Axia, some other console with spillage?
We had the facility I worked at was an all news station. We had 3 studios, all identical, and yes, we had a Ward Beck consoles, and they were 1983 vintage Ward Becks, and we had one spillage in one room. Nice thing was they could hit a commercial, also with carts. Went to commercial, hopped out of the studio, ran into the other studio, took control to the STL, and went right on the air. Continued doing the news while we did triage in the room that had. Coffee all over the place. Ward Beck consoles had power supplies in them that would pretty much you can arc weld. So even though and if you had the old the old Gates consoles were like that too. But if you even though we had edge connectors that were wet and definitely had coffee in them, the power supply just kept going. I mean, I think if we left it long enough, we probably would have had nice crystals going, from the sugar in the coffee. It was just the guys we were like, wow, it didn't blow a fuse. We just wiped it out, contact cleaner, Kremlin, whatever we could get our hands on, and a couple hours later, up and running and back on the air.
Now in Milwaukee, Chris Tarr doesn't have to deal so much with coffee going into the audio console. Chris has to deal with beer.
No, I do actually have a coffee story.
Okay.
Wheatstone D5000 in Madison. We had a morning guy who spilled his coffee in there, and it did take it down, and it took it down hard. And it was about probably a day or two before we got it back up. And still to this day, it's funky. We've replaced everything. Really short of just taking the entire thing out and shipping it back to be repaired. It still has issues. So yeah, I've been down that road. It happens, and you can put we talked about banning drinks in the studios, but that just never works. So you just you get prepared, and as I always like to joke, with the staff. If you guys don't break stuff, I'm out of work. So I don't mind it too much.
We've taken it one step further here. We've given all the on-air personalities sippy cups.
Oh, oh, that's a great idea.
So there's no food allowed in the studios, period.
Yeah.
That is strictly enforced.
No food.
No food whatsoever. You can take drinks in, but it must be in your sippy cup.
Oh my God.
That's what we call it. But they're the car, big car coffee cup, with the lids on them. Well, I like to call them sippy cups.
Those wouldn't be allowed in New York
That is
City,
because my wife runs a daycare. She has to deal with sippy cups, so that's why I call them that.
Oh man, well guys, I tell you what, we've burned through more than an hour here. Had a great time. I should hit the round robin. Anybody else got anything to add or ask? Scott Trask here. He's legendary in Atlanta.
I don't know about legendary, but
any comments for Scott? Guys, go ahead.
Hey, what kind of cable management did you employ with the layout and all the cabling and whatnot?
Well, the cable management was very simple. It is 4 network cables to each one of the studios. One, of course, running Axia, one running the network, one running the automation system, and we have a spare going to every room. That's it. There's no more cable. So that's it.
What I hear you saying and what I saw was basically there's hardly enough cables to require a formal management system.
No, but understand, though, every cable that we've run, anything, whether or not it's just simply from the power station to a CD player, or even from the power station to the back to the IP audio driver. Mm-hmm. Every wire has a number on it. Every room has a certain bank of numbers that are assigned to it, so that if anything was to happen to me or anybody else, somebody else could simply walk in and go, hey, what's this wire used for? They can go 1035. That goes from the power station to the CD player. They know what it's used for.
Gotcha.
So everything's been numbered, and we do use a certain number range. In the 3000s, if you have a 3000s, you know it's going from a room to a room. Not inside of a room. It's going, say, from a telco room to the engineering office, or from the engineering to one of the studios or something like that.
Gotcha.
That way we know quickly, hey, this is going to be a long cable.
How did you come up with an IP addressing scheme?
Very simply. First, we broke down what our subnets were going to be. We've actually broken the station down, the office network, into 4 zones. And we've gone 10, 20, 30, and 40 as the subnets. They all have their own little switch.
This is the 3rd octet?
Yep.
Okay.
The second octet.
The second octet.
Yep.
10, 20, 30, 40. Okay.
And so everything's like 10.247.10.20.30, whatever zone you're in.
Yeah.
And then for the studios, they each have their own subnet for office stuff, let's say. And then Axia is on, say, the 8 network. We have Next Gen on the 5 network, and equipment room stuff that's connected back to the transmitters through Interplex is on a 3 network. And certain things we've, through the switches, have described to say, hey, yes, this from the 5 network, you're allowed to talk to the 3 network. For RDS purposes, pad data, and so forth. But that way, it's not touching the office.
Right. So nobody in the office network could accidentally browse into the wrong thing and take you off the air.
Nobody can do that.
Okay.
But everything's been separated to keep all the network traffic as minimal as possible.
But I'm guessing you have effective ways to get from the outside world to get in to manage your stuff.
Yes, because we have certain things like Next Gen, like the PDs need to be able to get to it. So, of course, we have rules in all the switches that say this PD can get to Next Gen. That's fine. But nobody else can get to Next Gen, so they can't accidentally get in there.
Yeah.
So that it's very meticulous, but we had a few months to get ready for it, so we were able to plan it real well. So that was good.
Chris Tarr, closing comment?
No, it's good stuff. And I was listening intently there to your talking about your internet addressing and subnetting, because I'm going to be going through that very soon.
Yeah. Well, as engineers, I think, more and more of us are finding a need to do more than just 192.168.1 or 0 dot something.
Well, it's funny because I haven't been to the NAB, of course, in about 3 or 4 years. Just haven't been able to go. But my last year there, I ended up talking to somebody at the Telos booth about Axia. And he was like, well, I'm just going to put it on the office network. And we were like, whoa, wait a minute, time out. A lot of traffic there. You need to plan this out. And I kind of gave him a rough idea of what we were doing. And from there, I've communicated with him a few times, and he's got it down pat now too. So it's fun.
Tom Ray, you got a last comment or question?
No, I do like the IP addressing scheme, and I'll keep that in mind for the next build because that makes a lot of sense. And I've done very similar to what he's done with the cable numbering scheme between studios and between rooms and such, and that works out really well when you open the book and know you're looking at a cable with a 20 at the beginning, and you open the book and you know that it's in this room, it stays in this room, it goes from here to there. Makes a lot of sense, and you got a great facility.
Thank you.
I wish I could do a better job of showing it off to you. Maybe I'll come back down here again with a video camera and really try to do it right. But this is a beautiful radio station.
Thank you. Thank you.
And by the way, your GM's office is real nice too.
Oh yeah, we could play wiffle ball in that puppy.
That thing is
huge.
He should close some deals in that.
Oh, they're definitely going to close some deals.
That's a power office.
And like I said before, if you could see some of the pictures from the old studio, not that it was bad. Don't get me wrong. You had a great view of downtown. It was a really nice studio set up in a way, but this to me looks more like a radio station. For instance, I posted a picture today on Facebook of the old Star 94 sales area, which there is absolutely nothing there but trash and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
From all the furniture is gone, it's completely wide open. And you take a picture of it and you post it and you go, okay, where is this place? And everybody's just like, I cannot believe what I'm looking at right now because it is wiped out.
Wow.
So,
folks, you've been enjoying, I hope, This Week in Radio Tech, episode number 165. We've been talking with Scott Trask at the studios of Star 94 in
790 The Zone.
And 790 The Zone in Atlanta, where he's got a big IP audio network. It's an Axia network. Thank you very much for putting that in. I know there's others, so we've showed you some pictures of some other facilities on this show as well. Hey, Chris Tarr from Muckwanego, thanks for being with us. I appreciate it very much, buddy.
All right, thanks for having me.
All right, and Tom Ray from the Hudson Valley in New York. Thanks for being here, buddy. Well, oh, by the way, I'm sorry, I should have asked. Chris, where can people reach you? Where you hang out? What's your website?
Well, let's see. Broadcastengineering.info is the site that I co-founded. You can follow me on Twitter at The Geek Jedi, Google+, Facebook, you name it. I'm all over.
All right. Just look for Chris Tarr or The Geek Jedi. And that broadcastengineering.info. That's a great site for conversation with other engineers, isn't it?
It is. We have, I think we just had our 1,000th member sign up.
What? Are you buying those? Is that like Twitter? Is that like Twitter members, Twitter followers? You buying them?
No, that's. I think it was. We just hit 1,000 the other day. I mean, it's been around for 5 or 6 years now. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, great job.
Good for you. All right, Tom Ray from the Hudson Valley of New York. Where can people get a hold of you?
Well, they usually see my picture in the post office. No. No, you can find me at Tom Ray at TomRayConsulting.com or, TomRayConsulting.com is the website. I also have my ham radio site, which is W2TRR.com. I'm also on Facebook. I'm also on LinkedIn, and I'm here every week, or close to every week. So
if the sheriff wants to find you, no problem.
No, not a problem at all. I'll just tell him my name's Kirk Harnack.
And Chris Tobin, you've been joining us from the GFQ studios in Queens, New York. Where can people get hold of you?
People can find me at ctobin@musiccamusa.com as they have been in the past, and go from there.
All right, good deal. Thanks a lot, and thanks to Andrew Zarian, producer of the show, switcher extraordinaire, director. Appreciate you being there, Andrew. And
thank you, Kirk.
Thank you for being with us. And thanks for putting up with this crummy bandwidth at my end. It's my fault, and I'll try to do better next time. That's it. Our show is brought to you by Axia. The website is axiaaudio.com. You can get to all of the Telos Alliance brands all under one roof by checking in at telosalliance.com. telosalliance.com. I encourage you to go there and read up on white papers. Get yourself on the mailing list once a month for e-news. It's very helpful, and I think you will not find it spammy at all. You'll actually like it. Scott, thanks for being with us.
Thank you. I'm glad you came by.
Oh, it's been a great time.
It's been enjoyable.
All right.
Very good.
We'll see you next week on This Week in Radio Tech. Bye-bye, everybody.
That's all the bandwidth we can pilfer this week. Another TWiRT is propagated, and all the transmitters and audio equipment live happily ever after, thanks to the handsome engineer and his kind, benevolent care. We'll be back next week.
Lord willing and the creek don't rise.
does.
This week in Radio Tech. Subscribe to iTunes and you'll never miss a show. Search for This Week in Radio Tech in the iTunes Store. Soliciting is strictly encouraged. If you like today's show, tell a friend. If you didn't like it, we were never here. Kirk Harnack's wardrobe provided by the Salvation Army and the Red Cross Disaster Relief Services. Hair and makeup provided by Penelope Garcia Hernandez Weinberg.
He's unique, wouldn't you say?
I just want to get it over with.
This ends this transmission. Tango, Whiskey, India, Romeo, Tango. Signing off. Okay.